Welcome back to God Plutonium, everyone. I'm Stepek. I'm the owner of Godless.com, and I'm also the owner of God Plutonium, which is a services tool for independent authors, publishers, and self-published authors and publishers. This week's tutorial is going to be a two-part tutorial, the second part being next week. The first part is going to be about formatting a digital ebook using InDesign. Next week, we're going to show you how to export that so there's no flaws, F-ups, craziness, or any kind of wonkiness in your files. A lot of people use Microsoft Word to format their files, which is totally fine. But if you want a more polished and better looking book that's easy to export without having to use any online free converters that totally mess things up, I sincerely recommend you use Adobe InDesign. That said, enjoy this tutorial.
Let's get busy, get busy, get busy, get busy.
I ain't going out like that.
Okay guys, start things off by opening up InDesign, okay? Go up here into File and do a new document, okay? We want to do a custom, and we want to do this at 33p and 51p width and height. I'm going to do 10 pages for this first one because I just want to give you an example of how to do this and how to lay this out. So we want one column. Okay, we start on page 1. We want one column and we want a 1-point column gutter, okay? Beyond that, we want our margins to be locked. Let's lock this right now and do them at 4 each. That's the margins so you can set in your text. Let's do them at 3 each, okay? Make sure those are locked and they're all the same aspect ratio. We're gonna do our bleed here. Also gonna check over here and make sure that's locked. We don't really need to do one of these for an ebook, so don't worry about it. Create your file. Okay, there we go. We've got a file ready. Now the first thing we wanna do to this document is place our cover. So in InDesign, on the document we just created, go to File, and then scroll down to Place. I made a pre-made cover for this to fit the aspect ratio of the cover designing. So when you do place, it'll come up and you just place it essentially in the center of your document. You'll see guides on the side there that'll help you set it in the middle. This book is called El Grosso by 𝗘𝗕𝗢𝗢𝗡𝗅. Big upcoming author on the hardcore scene. Okay, next we want to place our title page. It's going to come directly after our cover. So an easy thing to do here to keep the aspect ratio and the proportions correct with your cover is go down here to the next page, just copy this, select the entire cover, okay, and then paste it in place. Right click on the document and paste it in place. It's a really, really, really easy way to do it. Okay, now we want to build that title page. So I'm going to go and open Photoshop, and here is the cover design that I made. And it's all in layers, as you can see on the right. This is a Photoshop file. So what I want to do is I want to save it as a 𝗘𝗕𝗢𝗢𝗡 title page PSD, which is a Photoshop file, so it'll retain the layers. So now go in here and kind of go through and click off all the layers that are overlays and the grunge layers for texture, and just get it down to the bare text file, right? Okay, so we go there. You can do this in color, these titles, or you can just do them in black and white, which I prefer because most people are reading on their Kindle, on Kindle Paperwhites. So it doesn't really matter if someone's lucky enough to get a color one. So go over to these layers and change the titles and author name, make them black. So just selecting your color overlay on the layers and go through and do all those and make sure you get them black, okay? Now, since this is the title page, I kind of want all this up in the center of the document or the title page picture. So what I do is I select all these text layers and I select my move tool over there on the left in the toolbar, and I just nudge it up a little bit. Okay. Now I want to do our famous copyright page, or copyright. So I'll go once again over here to Google, and I will search for a copyright symbol. So when I find it on here, I'll just copy and paste it. I should really just figure out how to do this for real. You know what I'm saying? It's kind of idiotic that I have to do this every single time. So I'll copy that out of the HTML text, and I'll drop it in this file. Always use, for your copyrights, always use something that's very, very clean sans serif font, like Verdana or Helvetica or Arial, or whatever you want to do. You can do it whatever way you want, you know? This is your book. But make sure that's black, and we'll do, make sure it's black again. And we'll do copyright 2024 El Grosso. Big name up and coming in the horror scene. For Izzy. So kind of like pull that over, get it centered. You can see it lines up when you have it lined up in the center in Photoshop. And then you want to get rid of kind of like random fragments there. And make sure that this is a transparent image. So you can go to the background and click on it, and you can see that there's a white background, but you want it transparent. So you can see that when you get the checkerboard in the background in Photoshop. So I'm going to do a new layer here just to kind of show you. Fill that in with white, and then turn it off. Okay? So now we want to save this file as a high resolution PNG, which is a PNG fireworks file. So go up in here, save it as your diarrhea mouth title page, black and white. Go there. Okay, save that bad boy as a big PNG. Now we're going to do a copyright page. I'll go back to why we did these files as images rather than doing them as text in the file later on in this tutorial. So what we want to do here is set up a copyright page, which is pretty easy. So take the type tool on the left and drag it across the written area where you want your book to be. So we'll go up here. We want to go to type, and we want to make sure that we can see all hidden characters. So under type, select show all hidden characters, and then go down and do a bunch of spaces right there. So you can see that this is where we're going to lay this out. Okay? Capiche? So I'm going to place another file here, which is going to be our Grosso Publishing logo. Going to put it at the top, and we're going to put it a little bit down the page. You can stretch it out by doing Shift Command and pulling on your mouse. But just make it don't make it too big, don't make it too small. You just kind of want that as a header there on your copyright page. So this is really important. Click on that little blue box right there in the corner. It's an anchor. You need these anchors, and drag that over to the top of the enter spaces that are right there on the left. See what I'm doing here? And you see how now that I've done that, there's an X on the left and the little anchor shows up in that blue box. This is so important, you guys. It's so important. This is even more important. Open up under Object, go to Object Export Options, and do a division, okay? This is super important. Rasterize your content and save the format as a PNG. Do custom layout, alignment, and spacing, center it, and do a page break before this image. So then it'll line up and it'll set up your file when you export it into HTML, okay? I'm just gonna go lift this copyright text off another book that I recently did for Emery Leanne, just because I don't wanna type all this stuff up right now. So pop that in there, go over here to your properties, and make sure that your text is a basic paragraph. It's very important. I use crimson text because it's a serif font that's really nice, and it won't it'll default, but it'll default to something very similar. And I want to do that justified total for right now, and I'm putting godless.com on the bottom of it. I can link that layer later. And now I'm just going to center it all. Basic paragraph again. You don't want Minion Pro. That's the default font. Go up and select something like Times New Roman or Crimson Text or something that's really clean and nice for books. And you center this one. And then you can hyperlink this. I got godless.com down there. Right click on it after you select it and put in a new hyperlink, and it'll automatically go to godless.com. Because we're going to export this as an interactive document, even in the PDF, you're good to go by doing that on the copyright page. It won't turn up in your print, but it will turn up in there. So we got these first 3 pages, which are the beginning of the book. All right? Okay, now we're going to build the chapter titles. And this is such an important thing, you guys, because if you don't know this, an EPUB file is, for all intents and purposes, an HTML file. So it's a web page. So it's not going to retain any wacky fonts or anything you put in there. So you have to create chapter titles for that. I'm going to do a new file in Photoshop. Let's see, I'll do it like a height of probably around 400, and I'll do a 1600 width and a resolution of 300 because we want that to be crisp. So what we do here is we want to use the same font that we used in the cover. So everything looks cohesive and put together well. It looks like a book, right? So I'll put in chapter 1 here. You can do these with however you want. You can put ornamental things on here. You can put skulls on here. Whatever you need to do. But I'm just going to pop this in here, chapter 1, and then I'll likely just copy this layer that says chapter 1 for the chapter 1 title. Go over here to the move tool, drag that down a little bit, and put in whatever your chapter title is. Okay, so this one's going to be 𝗘𝗕𝗢𝗢𝗞. It's a good first chapter for a book. Really gets people engaged. Okay, so now we want to do this in the same font that we used the cover. I kind of futzed that up. These 2 files, there's 2 different fonts. They're almost exactly the same, and one looks all whack like that. You want crisp and clean fonts. And even though this is kind of a not crisp and clean font, it'll work for you. So select this font again and go back to where you were. 𝗘𝗕𝗢𝗢𝗡 is going to be our chapter title, and select that. And now align these. Make sure that these are both aligned in the middle. Made that a little bigger. See that guide there? That shows you that's in the middle. Pull that down. And we're using both fonts from the cover, which is nice. Be sure and turn off that background. So select that and turn it into a layer rather than the background, and turn it off. Make it invisible. Okay, now go over here to File and go to Save as a Copy, our favorite thing. Save this on our computer. First, save it as a Photoshop file, so we have it layered and we can do several different chapters. Capiche? You know what I'm saying? Okay, so we've got that Photoshop file saved. We're going to make a chapter 2 here. So I'm going to put these in a group so we can just copy and paste the entire group, so we can easily replicate this formula. You know what I'm saying? So you put those in there. Turn it off, show that it's transparent. So copy this like that. Use the little copy icon down there at the bottom. Drag it down there and change this to chapter 2. We're only going to do 2 chapters for this example in this tutorial, so we're good. So let's make a second chapter title. Something Smelts. It is one of El Grosso's famous chapter titles for all his books. There's always a chapter called Something Smells. Change this one to chapter 2. Make sure we're retaining those same fonts that we used in the cover. And save this as a copy. Okay. go into your assets folder that I'm doing this. You can save it as a chapter, or you can save it as a chapter 1, chapter 2, whatever. So I'm saving this one as chapter 2. Save it as a PNG again. Make sure that's transparent. If it's not, it's going to look whack. Make that invisible. Let's save chapter 1. Save as a copy. Let's see. Don't know what happened there. Bum, bum, bum. Save this on my computer in the same folder. I usually set up a chapters folder in my assets for the book, so I can just go back and forth there when I'm actually laying the book out. So this is chapter 1. Save that. Large file. And there you have it. Okay, we're on to step 7, right? This is placing the chapter titles. So reopen InDesign, and we'll use the titles that we just made, okay? So I'm going to scroll down and show you that this is where the book starts, after the copyright page. So once again, drag our text tool across there. Make sure that your invisible objects are turned on, and also make sure that you're lined up with the lines across the side to make sure that the book is centered. Okay, now put a bunch of spaces in here. This is really important, guys. I'm telling you, this is the most important part of creating something in InDesign. Okay, place. Go over to File, Place, and we're going to place our first chapter title image. Here's chapter 1, okay? Throw that in there and put it on the page where you want it. It's not really going to matter in a Kindle formatted EPUB, but it will matter in a fixed formatted EPUB. There's a difference. So do your anchoring again. See that? See that blue square? Click on it and hold it down, and then drag it over to one of your returns over there, okay? And as you can see, when you select the image, that little anchor thing is up there in the corner. So go again to Object Export Options, and select a chapter, okay? Rasterize content as a PNG, custom layout, alignment and spacing centered, and insert a page break before the image. Only before, and only on these. It's so important, you guys, that you follow all these steps. Okay, guys, now we're going to drop this text in. So I'm going to go open up this manuscript in Microsoft Word. I am doing Rapey the Snowman for this example by our good friend Sally Scrotum, member of the League, Lords of the Extreme Underground. So I'm going to select all the text in the first chapter, including that chapter break. Now, it's important to note where your chapter breaks are inside your manuscript, because when it transfers over to InDesign, you're going to want it there. So go below your title and paste that there, okay? Now, what you're going to want to do is select all this text, okay? Go over here to your properties. Important, see where it says mixed right there? Turn that into a basic paragraph. And you see how it's all bunched up right there and like kind of whack looking? Well, we're going to fix that. You don't want Minion Pro, but you do want a clean serif font. So select something like Crimson Text or Times New Roman, okay? We want probably around 12 point, depending on, it doesn't really matter. It's going to default on Kindle anyway. And we're going to justify all that text, okay? So it comes up square and it's not centered. Then we're going to go down here to one of our justification boxes, the second one there, and type in 1. That's a 1 pickup. So you're going to want that so it lines up all your indentations on the page. But at the beginning of every chapter or after every chapter break, you don't want that there. So pump that in as 0, right? So it lines up with the left, and that means you're starting something new. Capiche? Okay. I do this kind of weird thing because I want to be able to go through the entire manuscript. You can actually have this in InDesign, so you can just have all the text layout automatically into a chapter and chain together, but I don't do it that way because I want to be sure I capture every single chapter break in this. You know what I mean? It's important to be able to go through and see all your text as you're laying it out because you don't want to miss anything. So I'm going to go here. Okay guys, now let's drop in these chapter breaks. But first, let's make some chapter breaks. You know what I'm saying? So I'm going to make it, open Photoshop, make something that's a width of like 1,000 and 1,000. Make sure that's 300 ppi. Create file. And we're going to go in here and make something that could be for a chapter break. I use a lot of skulls and things like that, but you can use the ornamental stuff. So what's an easy way to do this is to find a dingbat font. I'm going to use a skull for this one. Just find a dingbat font. I'm searching for skulls in my font book, and I just went there. And make sure that's the entire, almost the entire width, and center it. Then go in here and find something that you think is appropriate. You can download tons of dingbat fonts with essentially whatever you want. But remember, you don't want to put that directly into the text. Okay, this skull's pretty cool. So we'll put select. We'll make sure that's centered in our document right here. And then we will make sure also that we have a transparent background, continuing down that way, right? Okay, so go over here to save as a copy. First, I'm going to save this as our chapter break. I didn't do this last time and I should have. It's important to save these Photoshop files. So that's our icon. Okay, so if we want to do a bunch of different things, we'll have this template ready to go. So go over here, say this is a PNG, and call this icon copy or chapter break or whatever you want. It's not really important, but I just called it chapter break. Okay, save that. Boink. Open our InDesign. I put 4 spaces or 4 returns in between our kind of like 2 parts of the book here where the chapter break goes. So go up here again to place, find our little skull chapter break. See that? Boom. Pop that right in there. We want these to be pretty small, especially if we're going to do something ornamental. You don't want it to overwhelm the page, and you don't want it to be super obnoxious. So drag it up in between where we have these 4 returns. And once again, select our anchor and make sure we have that anchored over there. Once again, very, very important. Do your object export options. Go down to object export options. Let's do a division for a document division. Rasterize content, PNG, custom content, center that thing. Do not select a page break. We want that to run naturally on our Kindle, and we want it to flow naturally. Since this is a page break, we're going to take this leading once again back to 0. So the paragraph starts off at the beginning of the new part, aligned all the way to the left. Okay, we'll drag this down again. To drag text, click on the box in the right corner right there. See that? Boom. Just drag it down to your next page. It's important that you actually go through all this page by page. So that's in there, and we are essentially ready to go. I make sure there's no extra returns there. So we're good to go. Okay. One thing we have here is that it looks like we've got a full document here, or for what we're going to do right now, okay? But we want to do a chapter 2. So let's go through this again. Select all that on your first chapter. Go down to the end of your document, right? See that? Right-click on it and paste in place. We're just going to replace all this content with the new content, including that. Select chapter 1, go over here to File, and do Place again. And get our chapter 2 chapter break. See, it replaces it automatically, but you have to make sure that you select it, okay? So make sure you select it in the document that's live, your chapter 1. Now let's drag these down here like we did before. Boom. I was having some problems with this one. I don't know what the hell is going on. I think my computer was running wacky because I had so many programs open and I was recording this live because I'm an idiot. Oh, didn't happen again. You might run into this. InDesign can kind of be a little wonky sometimes, but don't you worry about it. Just make sure you're not doubling up text boxes there, because that'll add to a bad export and something that's going to be totally wonky and screwball. Okay, Drew, get your head out of your ass. This is supposed to be a tutorial. You know what I'm saying? Anyway, I'm gonna plug in this text here. This is once again from Rapey the Snowman, a big hit over the holiday season this year by Sally Scrotum. So let's just select some text. I don't really want to do like the whole thing because I don't want to reveal how great this book is. You know what I'm saying? So click on your text box and select everything up to the beginning, right? See right there? I'm not doing the top part. And then paste your text in there. Again, basic paragraph. Make sure you do that. We're going to do crimson text, a really solid and clean serif font. We're going to do justified, and we're going to do the 1 lead. So now go over here, change this to 0 because we're at the beginning, right? Scroll down, and now we can drag this. That was my mistake before. I didn't actually cut and paste the text like a genius. So we have another chapter break here. That's why we go through these and do this the way we do. Slow, because you want to make certain you get everything. So go find your chapter break from chapter 1, right? We dropped one in there, and we've got it all set with all the export options, and that'll retain when we paste it. So go back down to chapter 2 and just paste it right there. And then center it on the page. And of course, anchor it. Do not forget to anchor it, or everything's going to end up at the end of your document. On the next paragraph, we pull that leading back to 0, and we're good to go. So I need to insert some pages here because 10 wasn't enough for what I kind of stole out of Sally Scrotum's manuscript. So go up here and drag these down until we've got a completed document. Capiche? Do it again. I think we've only got one more page. Here we go. So that is a completed document. However, we have 2 extra pages at the end. So click on that page and the next page and see how many you've got. Looks like we've got pages 13 and 14, I believe, and go up to layout, delete pages, and delete 13 through 14. We don't need those extra pages because we have a completed document and an ebook all ready to go. You know what I'm saying? Now save this as the title of the book by the author name. So you have the file. You don't want random untitled files hanging out in your computer. It leads to a lot of confusion. You know what I'm saying? And we have the beginnings of a great book by El Grosso called Diarrhea Mouth. See what I did there?
Hope you enjoyed that God Plutonium tutorial. We got the follow-up coming next week, which is actually exporting your file for sale. Sub this channel and comment below and tell me what kind of tutorials you want me to do and what you want to learn.